Hi, this is Chris from Orange Coast College's Art Department, reviewing how to make complex grays from complementary colors in watercolor. So this is a pretty straightforward but counterintuitive idea. My recommendation is to never use gray paint or black paint. Like if you got those in a kit, throw them out. Rather mix your neutrals from colors. And the easiest way to get complex neutrals is by mixing complementary colors. So, for instance, yellow and purple, green and red, and blue and orange. So let's just dab a little bit of this out here so you know what I'm talking about. So these are complements, they're opposite each other on the color wheel, and there's vibrancy when they're near each other, so you put them right next to each other and there's an energy that goes between them, but when you actually mix them, they will neutralize each other. So let's see how that plays out. Now, you don't want to go really saturated like this. What I recommend is that you mix a light, fairly watered down version, because at least if we're doing something like complex shadows, I can paint out a little bit of orange here. That's probably a little too saturated. And then I'm going to just get a wee bit of blue and paint right over the top. And depending on how warm or cold I want this, I can add a little bit more of one or the other. So there's some orange and blue. Let's take a look. And again, I want this not super saturated. Let's get a little red in there and maybe a little green. I'm going to paint right over the top and let them figure out who wins on the page. And lastly, let's take a little look at some blue. Purple and yellow are really nice for outdoor shadows. It's a really common, because you get some nice warmth from sunlight, and then where you're not receiving direct light, you might get some dome blue sky. And you can kind of tweak this while it's still wet. So I'm going to try to work on getting these a little bit more neutral by adding in a little bit more of the complement if it's a bit too much of one and not the other. Oops, that guy I think dried too much. A little too late there. And then probably my favorite, if we don't want so much color interaction going on, my favorite combination is a little bit of Payne's gray, which is essentially blue. It's just not super saturated. So get a little Payne's gray going on here. And then this is Van Dyke brown. But like a burnt umber does this really well too. So I come on in here. And that has a little bit more subtlety, but it's got the sort of brown is a unsaturated orange, and Payne's gray is a desaturated blue. And together they'll make that same blue and orange interaction. Let's take a look at this again once the... Okay, now these are mostly dry, and you can see they're fairly neutral. The most neutral being the Payne's gray and Van Dyke brown. But you can alter the balance while it's still wet there. But it's really nice that we've gotten interactions and it's just not one solid color, that you can see some red and some green, even though generally it's neutral. So I'd look at what you're using those neutrals for, where reflected light is coming from, and pick an interesting complementary color combination. And then lastly, we talked about light neutrals, and then here's a medium neutral. When I want to go dark, I'll often go straight to the well, and I'll get in here on maybe some Payne's gray, and then some of this Van Dyke brown, but I'm dabbing straight into the well and just going right across it here. And there's both cool and warm in there. And if I want to just juice it up a little bit further, I'll go into my ultramarine. And I want to start, even get that even more saturated, as much pigment as I can there. And then maybe a little burnt sienna in here. And there we've got, maybe a little too warm. I can come on back, balance that. So that's how I would mix some really dark neutrals. And if you get in tight on here, you've got really interesting interactions going on with the colors. All right, now it's your turn. Let's do some exercises doing some light, medium, and dark neutrals, and have fun experimenting, alter the balance, change things up, do more than I've got here, and see what they can do for you. Good luck.